It's going to be the package from China and maybe the ultimate one. Hey, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be doing a chit chat about not about my remote control, the lighting, but we're going to be chit-chatting about this particular product. I found it really interesting. I already reviewed this previous model, and you know, they're releasing so many of these devices, it's absolutely ridiculous. However, this GKD is a company that we have seen many times before now, and the Pixel 2 can be something really promising. So this is a device that is coming with a super format, let's say tiny format, that's going to be quite interesting. And in particular when it comes to, let's say, the way how they made it. So first of all, this thing is made out of metal and this thing looks really cool. However, is this going to be like the most comfortable device actually to play? Yeah, so first of all, if I'm going to be holding it, oh man, this thing is really tiny. And I mean, like the screen itself, it's quite decent, but you know, having over here this very nice metal case, volume control, the SD card is here at the side. Let's see what kind of band they're using. What is this? GKD. I'm hoping GKD is at least using some decent quality cards, because this is just becoming a really big problem with these devices. Headphone jack out, USB-C for charging. So what is kind of cool, you can power it on over here, having even the indication of how much juice is inside of this. And over here we're having the button for the menu. So first of all, I'm going to be looking at the top. I must say this configuration is something I'm personally not a big fan of, but the simple reason, because if you're going to be playing a lot of it, I know how it's with you, but this is not going to be not comfortable at all. So first of all, we're having a tiny D-pad, no analog stick. The D-pad quality feels okay. I do have like this idea there is this weird thing going on, and I think that has to do with the overall travel. The ABXY button, they're like tiny, not a big fan of it, but have like a nice touch, and the select the start over here. But let's boot it up, or I need to add myself the second SD card. That's going to be an original SanDisk Ultra 32 GB. Okay, so let's open it up. I think you need to add that one to the system. But it's actually kind of weird, because there is only one slot. So let's see what's going on. Oh, got a nice music to it. Okay, so one of the things is like this tiny speaker underneath. Wow, that sounds really good. Having arcade over here, so just see what's going on the device. Some simple arcade. The display is tiny, and that is one of the things that is going to be for some people not like super comfortable actually. So we can even clear the cache if you want to. Not going to be doing that. But you know, let's do a quick overview of the menu. So first of all, let's take a close look. I'm not going to be seeing the LEDs, and the LED lights on the... No, I can still see the LED lights. You see the reflection? Oh, super annoying. Okay, that's not much better. So we're moving over here, the FBN, FB Neo. So when it comes to, let's say, the overall basic design, oh, it's empty. It's kind of basic. There was nothing much going on. We do have like a lot of different systems we can play. Game Gear, Poke, Mini, PSP, consoles. They made like this nice category. So it would be fun to check out a couple of them. Even implement some N64. So Sega Genesis is a lot of cool stuff on there. Okay. So and overall, like I say, that I'm quite surprised of the stuff that we can actually play on there. Very other, DOS, open bore. So the basic SD card, that does have like a lot of cool things to it. Oh, nice. So let's start off with some Neo Geo, and I know some of you don't really like them playing fighting games all the time, but this is something of a necessary situation, because we're going to be needing to see if we can actually do some moves with this, with the D-pad. So the first test. It's absolutely unbelievable how good one single freaking speaker can be. Okay, so let's see how it is. It's going to be absolutely something I need to get used to. But whether right. I can't get any moves out with this particular game. And I think it's more like a personal handicap, because I need to get used to the freaking D-pad. This thing is so freaking long traveled. That's going to be like another problem. But if you're getting used to it, it's absolutely possible to play games with. But this device can be a very cool portable Game Boy device. Particularly when it comes to, let's say, the overall resolution. You can see that they're putting even some banners in there. So that's kind of cool. But so far everything seems to be working just fine. But that's kind of like these devices are just great when it comes to some basic gaming. So another thing I want to check out is pressing this particular button at the side. Here we're going to be having the RetroArch where we can just restart, make a quick load, quick save and mess around with the settings. If you're pressing both buttons, we'll go back to the menu itself. The only weird thing is like when you're having the menu, you need to work with A, B and start. So if you want to go back, you need to press start. So it's kind of weird and kind of annoying at that point. And I'm pressing A going back, but there is all kinds of cool stuff. So let's move to a couple of systems, because this is going to be awesome. So we're actually playing some Game Boy Advance. It's not going to be the perfect emulation situation because of the, let's say, screen of the GBA is slightly different with the resolution. Still, they implemented some bars over there. But this way you can actually still enjoy some Game Boy Advance. And I think if you're just going to be playing some basic games, you're not going to be needing a D-pad and A-B button. It's just fine, you know. You're going to be needing the side buttons, or at least the shoulder one. You can actually play and enjoy your games this way. The D-pad is not my favorite one for playing fighting games, but if you're going to be playing just some basic adventure games, this is going to be great. And the audio itself, I mentioned throughout the video, that sounds absolutely awesome. Ba, 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 ba. So let's move to some old school games with the Sega Genesis. And I can tell you that I can actually really enjoy myself with this. I think about I mentioned before, if you just want to play the simple games, that is just going to be fine. Where the screen is so freaking tiny. I'm actually like watching through my camera display, otherwise it's quite difficult to actually see, but the display itself is really beautiful and sharp, so that makes it a little bit better than watching at it. But for me personally, I would just have like myself a bigger display, but also let's say minimum of 3.5 inches. But one of the things when it comes to the audio itself, where this sounds so great, where some of the devices are bigger, in some cases even better in many ways, they sound absolutely horrible. But so far, yeah, it's quite nice. And this tiny thing can even play Sega Dreamcast. That's absolutely nuts. So audio-wise, this thing has some really high-pitched speaker on the inside. But the reason I crank it up so you can actually hear, I cannot show the frames per second. Ooh, the vibrator motor also works with this particular emulator. So for some basic Sega Dreamcast emulation, that is kind of cool. Well, I have no idea how to switch between... Ah, there we go. But you can hear that it struggles. It's really pushing this tiny device to its limit. Wow, the vibrator motor is crazy sensitive. But I'm really surprised how well this actually works. Man, what a... You know, it's kind of cool to see that such a tiny device has such an incredible power, where this emulation is not perfect or spot on, it's still playable. But playing N64, it's going to be the hit or miss situation that we have seen many times before. But hey, there is actually some stuff it's just going to be playable. The downside is if you're going to be using, let's say turbo, in this case, the power up, you're going to be using... you're going to be using the shoulder buttons, and that is one of the features I don't really like because it's not the most comfortable handheld out there. But besides, you can actually see the launch titles are playable, so playing some N64 in this is impossible, but you're going to be having an hit or miss situation. But still, these devices are capable to play some Dreamcast and some other N64 games, but I think they're still the most fun for actually playing these old school games like the PC Engine, because the PC Engine has so many great titles like this particular one. Pinball, with a demonic, like say, touch. Devil Crush, if I'm saying it correctly. Devil Crash. Okay, now I'm so confused. However, absolutely an amazing game. I think they ported it also to the Sega Genesis. It was called differently. But I can personally really enjoy this. But how about playing PlayStation 1 with some Tony Hawk? That is possible. That's one thing for sure. But you know, I personally prefer to play that actually on my original device, because this is going to be challenging. However, it is not impossible. Vibrator motor also works, that's absolutely cool. That's one of the features I do miss with a lot of these devices now, that we don't have any rumble motors. And the overall emulation performance is smooth and it looks great on this device. And that goes for the simple reason, because of the beautiful tiny screen and the great overall resolution. But this is absolutely very fun, but I think this is going to be cramping up my hand within, let's say, a half hour or so, because you're going to be holding this thing very sturdy. I suck at this game. Oh man. But in the end, when you're going to be playing all of kinds of games, I think it's still a lot of fun to old school games like the Sega CD. It's absolutely nuts to see how many different games you can just cramp into these tiny devices. But, you know, is this going to be like the ultimate device to bring with you? I don't know. I think I'm going to be rather having, let's say, a bigger device that can actually play the same stuff and sometimes even better. Because you notice that some of the systems, it's just pushing it to its limit. Maybe within a couple of years we're going to be having devices that can actually play everything. But for then, that moment, I'm just going to be enjoying myself some old school games like Sonic CD. But this is not like my favorite game. I love the music, but I can still remember like Sonic 3 and Knuckles was like it was like my favorite game ever. And when this thing came out, I was more like, this feels more like a Sonic 1 game, with some cool features like running, of course, but still, I was disappointed. Booting up and turning it off is going to be a different story. You need to press start and pressing A to turn it off. Okay. So that's the way how you're going to be doing it. And the reason why is very simple. You remember that SD card? I have no idea where it's for. This is the original one that came with it, but I had another one. Or is this one that is lost in the package that is actually for another handheld? I have no idea. So let's try it out. Let's see what's going on. I always like finding these things, how to get it back in. There we go. Let's turn it on. If there's anything going on this particular SD card. Is it turning on? No, because I'm pressing the wrong freaking button. So that means that this SD card is not for the system. Ooh, maybe I have an idea where it is for. The GKD 2 is a very cool piece of equipment. I love this metal as housing, and the D-pad is not bad at all. However, when it comes to comfortability, yeah, this is not going to be the best comfortable handheld out there. With this beautiful display and his, like say, tiny design, I must say that this is going to be an interesting, let's say, device to bring with you. But the question remains, is it something you should consider now where there are so many different devices out there? If you just want to search something that is powerful enough to run most of your simple games, this is going to be an absolutely overall fun experience. However, if you're going to be playing some PlayStation Portable and some really more demanding games, you should look further to find something that's actually going to be more, let's say, enjoyable because of the overall emulation performance. Throughout the video you can see some of the games are actually playable. If you have any PlayStation Portable, we do have like this black bars because the resolution is not perfect for PlayStation Portable. But you can actually play some Jetpack Joyride. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, let me know what you think of the Pixel 2. Do you think it's worth it to buy a metal brick like this? And it will be great to see you in the next video.